couple of weeks ago, one of my players gave me two Pewter Minis. I've never really worked with Pewter Minis before, and I didn't realise at the time that there were a bunch of hoops you had to jump through to make Pewter Minis table ready. So today, I'm going to show you what I had to go through to make these Pewter Minis look good. I don't know if it makes any odds, but both of the minis that I got here were from the Reaper lines. The sculpts on both of them were pretty nice. I actually prefer the dwarf sculpt, and that was the first one I painted up. You'll see that at the end of the video. You'll notice on a lot of these minis that there are little pieces of flashing sticking off them. That's just pieces of the material that leaked out of the mold, essentially. You see a little tail at the bottom of this guy that I just plucked off and turned into an artisanal toothpick eventually. That's just flashing and it pulls off pretty easy. With this guy, as soon as I pulled him out of the box, I realised that the tab at the bottom for sticking him onto his base was actually pretty sharp, so the first thing I did was sanded that flat just so I could work with him a little easier. For me, this was the scariest part. Bending a mini and feeling resistance feels wrong, but apparently Pewter Minis are known to bend. Her bow and her arm both needed to be straightened, and I did this very, very delicately. The tool I'm using here is a cuticle trimmer. They cut really flush, and I'd suggest one for anyone who doesn't want to spend $20 on a flush cut nipper online, when you can get one of these for $3 or $4 at a dollar store. You can't really see it from this angle, but there was another piece of flash on the beak of this bird, and because of how tiny that was and how high detail it was, I had to be very careful about it. I couldn't just hog away material, I really had to take it away fraction of a millimeter at a time. Because I cut this piece so flush, there isn't a lot of sanding that needs to be done. What I'm using is a two-sided nail file. They're pretty cheap and easy to find. I'm going to use the rougher side to hog away any material that needs to go, and the finer grit to smooth out any lines and scuffs. There was a little flash sticking out from under the base as well, so it wasn't sitting flush with the tabletop. What I did was I just snipped off what I could and then filed the whole thing flat. The next step I did off camera. I washed the minis. Pewter minis are almost always covered in a layer of mold release, and this will stop paint and primer from adhering, and it'll make it more likely to chip once it dries. So some hot water, some dish soap, and maybe a toothbrush, just to take off that layer. From here, I left the minis to dry overnight, and once they were nice and dry in the morning, it was time to prime them. I know some brands make specific mini primers, but I just used a rattle can of Rust-Oleum surface primer that said it was okay for metal, and it turned out fine. From here you can paint your minis however your heart desires. I went with a pretty traditional dwarven colour scheme, and I loved how detailed the final product looked. So thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed it and more importantly learned something from it. If you'd like to see me do something specific in the future, just let me know in the comments and subscribe to see what Fig makes next.